Hello, today we will discuss about exception handling. So at first, before we discussion about exception handling, you about know about difference between error and exception. So what is an error? Error indicates the serious problem and abnormal condition that most applications should not by to handle. Or error defines problem that are not expected to be caught under normal circumstances by our program. For example, memory error, hardware error, or JVM error, Java virtual machine error, etc. And exception means are condition within the code. A developer can handle such condition and take necessary corrective action. Example: divide by zero exception, null pointer exception, arithmetic exception, and array index out of bound exception, etc. So what is an advantage of exception handling? You should know. So what is an advantage? That is one is exception handling allows us to control the normal flow of the program. By using exception handling in the program, it throws an exception whenever a calling method and encounter an error, providing that the calling method takes care of that error. It also gives us the scope of organizing and differentiating between different error types using a separate block of codes. This is done by the help of try-catch blocks. So in exception handling, mainly we can handle the code. If in code any error is creation, then is called an exception, and it can be handled by several blocks. So these blocks are try, catch, finally. These blocks are used to handle the exception in a code. Uh, so so why handle the exception? If any exception is raised which has not been handled by programmer, then program execution get terminated and system prints a non-user friendly error message. So avoid this problem, we can handle the exception. So type of exception, there are mainly two type of exception is there, that is checked exception and another is unchecked exception. So what is checked exception? Checked exception means all exception other than runtime exception. Means before runtime exception, the error which have occurred in code, this is called checked exception. As the compiler checks them when the compile can be done for any code. So this type, if any error is occurred, then it is called checked exception. If so this some examples are class not found exception, illegal access exception, no such field exception, that is syntax error also be, and checked exception error. If syntax problem is there, if you follow some like C programming language or Java or C++, they have different syntax you can use for a particular program. So if any syntax error is occurred, then it is called checked exception. And then we can discuss about unchecked exception. So unchecked exception, these exception are not especially handled in the program code. Instead, the JVM handles such exception. Means JVM when handles the exception means it's a runtime exception. When Java virtual machine handles the such exception, that is common exception is integer a is equal to 50 by 0, that is arithmetic exception. String s is equal to null. So then system.out.println s dot length. So there are nothing to print any length because because string s is equal to null, so it is a null pointer exception. Then string s is equal to abc, then integer I is equal to integer %s, then we can pass string. So this is a number format exception. You can provide integer type, then you can print string, it is a number format exception. Then array index out of bound, then you can define an array integer a is equal to new int 5, then you can then again we can declare a10 is equal to 50. So this is an, you can already predefine 5, then you can again declare 10. So it is an out of index out of bound, array index of out of bound. So note that in compile time error, all syntax error will be detected by compiler. In runtime error, sometime a program may compile success creating the .class file but may not run properly. Such programs may produce wrong result due to wrong logic or may terminate due to error, such as stack overflow. Runtime error means dividing by zero, accessing an element that is out of bound of an array, attempting to use a negative size for an array, typing to illegally change the state of thread, and so on. So Java exception handling mainly handled by few blocks, that is try, catch, finally, and throws. All are keyword used in a particular own block. So these are also called keyword in Java. So Java try catch block is used to enclose the code that might throw an exception. It must be used within the method Java. Java try block must be followed by either catch or finally block. So try block can be followed either by catch or by finally. So multi-catch block means at a time only one exception is occurred and at a time only one catch block is executed. Here if several multi-catch block if you used in a code, but the legal catch block that is relevant to the condition, this must be execute, but others are not. So this is an multi-catch block. So then again next we can some example about exception handling. At first we can discuss about multi-catch block example. So here we can take in a class that is test, and here we can take an array, and here we can declare array index of bound. Arithmetic exception is handled. So here catch block is there. Here we can arithmetic exception is handled by this. So here we can print test1. Another catch block is array index out of bound exception E, that is test2, and catch exception E, that is common, and another is rest of code. So here we can print only the test1, that is arithmetic exception. Here arithmetic exception is occurred, so this part will be printed, and the last part, that is rest of code, it is relevant to the particular coding, so this part will be only printing, but these are not printing because these are not relevant to the condition. So this is an example. Another example is finally block. So finally block is Java finally block is a block that is used to execute important code. It always execute whether exception is handled or not. Means finally block means the last part of the program part or coding part, means if any exception occurred or not occurred, or exception handled or not handled, it can be print. If any value you can give this block, this can be print anyhow. So here we can take in a class that is test, and here we can take try block, that is here we can same arithmetic exception is handled. So here catch block is handled the exception, and finally the finally block rest of code. So here print mainly rest of code and final block. So finally here we can if you give any statement, this only print here. So another example is that is without exception handling. Here we can take in a class, and here we can declare public static void main, the main function, and here we can declare the arithmetic exception. So here we can print the rest of code. So only rest of code is print, because here will not handle this code particular exception by try, catch, finally block. So this is normal program without exception handling. Then another program is totally. Here we can declare or define the try, catch, and finally block both together in a single program, that is class test. Here we can declare public static void main function. Here we can from the try block we can handle the exception, and the try block only the particular exception that is occurred, it can be handled. Then catch block handle this exception, what type of exception is there, so this can be done in catch block. And finally block is only the terminate the coding part, only you can declare this finally block. And so which is declared in which is printing in finally block, only this part only you can see in output, because in finally part is the last part, and what should you declare it can be handled or not handled, it can be only print the finally block here. So this is another program, and next we can discuss about throw part. So Java throw keyword is mainly used to explicitly thrown an exception or user defined exception. So it is mainly throw an exception and or user defined exception. User can define any exception is can be occurred, then this part will be handled by throw block. So public class test, here we can create a class. So here we can void valid, age is valid, from the age is here we can check only. So here the arithmetic exception is so here not valid throw. So here else, in else part welcome will be print, and here with the valid is 15. So exception in thread main, that is java long dot arithmetic not valid. So it is not valid because 15 is not the about the condition is satisfied, so it is not a valid code. So it is can throw an exception, that is new arithmetic exception not valid, java.lang at arithmetic not valid. This is an throw exception example. Then another example is throws. So here throws is there could be situation where there is a possibility that is made a method might throw contents kind of exception, but this is no exception handling mechanism prevalent in the method. So the throws can be used in such cases. It is specified immediately after method declaration. So when a method could be declared, so here we can throw an exception, arithmetic exception. Then we can discuss about the code. Here we can take a two integer type variable and another variable, that is print, that is divide the two variable. Then try block, the divide function will be called, that catch arithmetic exception e. So here we can predefine. At first we can predefine. In throw part we can after predefine, then in throws part we can predefine before the method will be declared in this part. So here we can that code the exception java.lang and arithmetic divide by 0. So this is an exception handling part. So you can cover all the part. So thank you everyone.